Hector Bravo, unhinged. Chaos is now in session.
Welcome back to our channel's Warriors. Another banger today. But before that, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Today's special guest is Marlon Marocchi, 24-year veteran of the Los Angeles Police Department. What's up, dude? What's going on, Marlon?
What's up, dude? What's going on, bro?
Thanks for coming, bro.
Yeah.
You said you took the train. How was that experience, man?
You know what? Anytime that you can just see the coast, the beach.
Yeah.
I haven't taken a train since, I want to say when I used to work in LAPD far. I used to take the train to work. But otherwise than that, man, it was a great ride, bro.
Most of all, no traffic, dude.
No traffic, avoid the traffic, back, lower back kind of, hurts a little as you get older, right? And, but hey, man, I drive, we've done this before, so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on my show, man. I've been on yours a few times, and then we got some stuff in the works in the future, dude. Mm-hmm. So were you raised in Los Angeles? Native?
Born and raised in Peru.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought there was something about you, man.
Yeah. Soy peruano 100%. Came here in 1980, so given what the age, and I've been here for 40 plus years. And I'm all 818. I'm from the San Fernando Valley. I never left the valley. And let me just kind of divert a little bit, but the culture in LAPD, believe it or not, and a lot of the LAPD folks know this, is that they live far, bro. They don't want to live within the city of Los Angeles.
What are some of the outskirts?
Yeah, well, for example,
San Fernando Valley?
Yeah, so for the San Fernando Valley, a lot of cops live in Santa Clarita, Valencia, Palmdale, Lancaster, Stevenson's Ranch. And for the South End coppers, the people who work 77 Southeast, Hollenbeck, all the South, a lot of them go to Chino Hills, Eastvale, and some even live in Orange County, but not many, and I'm proud 818, not many actually get to stay in the city and live where you actually work.
Nice. No, for sure, dude. So there are like some people, there's some cops that stay in the ghetto. I'm sure there are cops that come from the ghetto. Do they stay there as they work, or is it a goal to get the hell out of there?
No, you want to get the hell out.
You do?
Some do, yeah. I mean, look, there's parts in the San Fernando Valley no any different than parts in LA, and I'm certain I can speak for San Diego, National City, Chula Vista, just all over California, where, you know what, I don't think I just want to live here. So I make more money, good living, good profession. You know what? Start a family, get out of here.
Exactly.
And the rule is the farther you live, the cheaper it's probably going to be. Location.
That, and then like we were saying, start a family. So when you think about, you want to get your kids away from that environment.
Yeah, of course, absolutely, bro.
Peru, man, LA, dude. So did you always want to be a cop?
Actually, no. What I will say is having not that much guidance. I think my father wasn't around, so my mom has raised us, me and my brothers and sisters, where I just felt as though I didn't really have that much guidance, that much direction. Like a father figure that's there to kind of guide you and tell you, hey, you know what, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. Or someone that's there, cracking the whip to make sure you're walking a straight arrow. So for me, I don't know. That's a really good question. I say this all the time. My best friend, who has 28 years, I beat him. Rick, if you're listening, I beat you to retirement. And he was very influential in making my decisions because he was in the police academy while I was still in the Navy. And I know I didn't want to re-enlist. And then he pretty much told me, this is a great gig, and this is going to be, faced with a lot of challenges. And one thing led to another, and I didn't want to re-enlist, and I applied, and here we are.
Dude, I didn't even know you were in the Navy, man.
Navy, yeah.
Bro, that's what I like about you, man. You're humble to the... I've known you for probably over a year now, dude.
Yeah, we've known each other for a bit.
We've never even... I didn't even know you were in the Navy, dude.
North Island, baby.
Really?
This is
so
home.
That's why you knew about National City. I'm like, hey, this dude knows freaking San Diego.
I know. I got a little street credit here.
Yeah, what about Tijuana, man?
Always. Club Zool. What else? Papas and beer, bro. Back in the days.
Oh, dude.
Me and my boys, and you listen, you Constellation guys, the Connie. My boys in our ship, we would always take off on the weekends and
I bet
hit downtown TJ, bro.
I bet they were just loving that Peruvian guy, man.
They were for a bit. It was definitely best decision I made to get my shit together.
Yeah.
Right. To become something.
Right.
And I got to tell you, man, that GI Bill and that VA loan and
Dude.
you know this, all that pays off.
Man, you made it, bro. You made it. Congrats,
Yeah,
dude. And thank
yeah.
you for serving our country, bro.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that, man.
Yeah.
So LAPD, dude, you looking for guidance. You're in the Navy. You already know what it's like to wear the uniform and to serve. What was your knowledge of police officers at that point? Was it watching on the news, movies?
Well, I can tell you that the 1992 riots went down, and I was just like, fuck, dude. Do I really want to do this? There's cats. I mean, there was actually footage. I don't know if you remember this, but in Koreatown, K-Town, is what they call it, right? They had these dudes up there with fucking
Rooftop Koreans.
rooftop fucking Koreans about to take everybody out. And then, of course, when I got in, I started asking questions to my FTOs, right? My field training officers, like, hey, where were you in the riots? They're like, bro, there was a time where they actually roll 4 deep, and they would actually see someone bloodshed, bro, right in front of them, like dying, pretty much. By the time they get out to try to go help and grab the body, they were just bullets flying everywhere. They're like, you know what? Nah, get back in the car and try to get it. Literally, it was a war zone.
That's
so
wild, dude.
I bring that up to say that at the time, my biggest concern, or I should say a fear, was, hey, you know what? Do I really want to carry a gun? Because at the time that I was thinking about applying, there was this controversial landmark case in the city of New York with NYPD called the Diallo shooting, where this kid got shot 44 times when he was walking up to his apartment complex. And they were asking him, don't reach for your pockets, don't reach for your pockets. Let me see your hands, let me see your hands. He pulls out a wallet and, and they just do him 44 shots. So I always felt like, I don't know if I really want to do that. So, but I will say, Hector, that once I applied and once I got that, congratulations, moved to the next step, man, I was pumped.
Oh, I bet. Dude.
I was ready.
I bet, man. And we'll double back on that one shooting in New York once we get into IA to see your perspective of internal affairs. What is it called? Agent or officer in internal affairs?
Internal affairs. Yeah.
Okay.
IA. Yeah. It's all IA.
All
the
right.
IA guy.
So before we dive in too deep, man, what was one of the first beats or patrol areas that you were patrolling?
My in the Valley, 818. Let's see, in Foothills, where I actually did my probation. And out of all the places in the San Fernando Valley, I wasn't really too familiar with Foothill Division. It was like 60 plus square miles. And at one point, there's this place called The Rock, which is off Sunland, that goes all the way up north. All my LAPD guys know about The Rock. And it was a little foreign to me because one of the first things, and you'll appreciate this, a cop today from a cop that it was 25 years ago, is that you had to know directions, bro.
Absolutely.
Map 101. If you didn't know where you were going, stand by. So it'll be like this. If I'm your FTO, okay, Hector, where am I going?
Right.
And I'm just driving. So I'm waiting on you to tell me where to go. Well, let's make a right here. Right? Did you say right? Did you mean westbound? Is that what you meant, going westbound?
Wow.
And so you had a map, and you had to figure out how to tell your FTO where to go to get to the actual location. So those were tough times, man.
Oh, dude, that's one of the perks of this channel, man, is I get to ask OG cops. I refer you guys to the OGs. You guys started this foundation, laid the foundation for this newer generation, and things were way different back then, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of tradition that I feel as though it has dwindled to the point where there really isn't much. I do talk to some of my partners now. The southern part of LAPD, like 77, Southeast and Southwest, they still continue to have a couple of traditions, meaning you got to wear your Class A's.
Really?
Up until the point where your FTO looks at you and says, okay, you know what, you've earned to wear your Class C's, which is your short sleeves.
Okay.
Or some, you know those Bates dress shoes. You have to earn how to wear your boots.
Nice.
Back in those days. And those traditions, have gone away in a sense. But some out of the 23 plus LAPD divisions, and no knock on all the other ones if I've forgotten, but I still believe that there is some tradition left like it was 25 years ago.
How imperative was physical fitness for a police officer back in those days?
Well, I'm a soccer dude, and if I would have stayed home in Peru, I would have ended up being pro. That's how much I love this shit. I mean, it's in my blood. So for me, running, it wasn't really a big deal. But that's an interesting question, because
I'm asking more along the lines of how would it affect your ability to chase down hardened criminals and fleeing suspects and have to fight for your life?
Right. It's, I tell you what, BJJ today was not around in my times.
Yeah.
And in my times, we were so scrutinized about using force. Like, for example, in today's 835 APC, in your use of force power in the state of California, the laws are so embedded, and if you really read it, it's so stricted to the point where, yeah, I understand we have to de-escalate, but pretty much California Post is asking any law enforcement officer to get it on before you start even thinking about using deadly force.
Absolutely.
Of course, decisions, happen quick. And the shittiest part is, this, the average OIS is less than 2 seconds.
Right.
So my point is that back in my days, there used to be like restrictions like, oh shit, I can't fucking get it on and start punching you.
Yeah.
Strikes to get you on the ground and effect an arrest. I don't necessarily think back then you were like, shit, I don't think I can do that, right? Punching someone in the face, really? That's shitty. But BJJ is, hey man, there wasn't many people who really paid attention to being in shape. No any different than I'm certain there's a lot of cops here in the state of California that don't pay attention.
Right.
To being in shape. I mean, how many times you and I seen an overweight cop?
Right. I just think it's more of an issue, way more of an issue in today's day and age, 2024, than in the past.
Yes, but now there is more of a mandate for you to de-escalate. Where 25 years ago, it was ask, tell, and you used to tell us, ATD, bro, ask, tell, and do.
Let's talk about that, because you've mentioned de-escalation twice, and I got a professional in the room. It's your bread and butter, dude. Penal code, right? De-escalation. And I know what the policy says, and I know what the law says, and I know what practical application is. Mm-hmm. The penal code states that peace officers do not have a duty to retreat.
Correct. Yes.
What does that mean to you?
It's embedded there. Well, what it's depending on the circumstances, obviously, right? There is situations where you don't have a duty to retreat, but however, that duty to retreat comes along the lines with de-escalation. So there's language in 835 APC that mentions duty to retreat, but it doesn't really kind of like spell it out. Well, what do you mean by, me not retreating, or do I retreat? So these are decisions that you have to make. However, part of de-escalation is, and by the way, my beloved LAPD, I got to give them props, man. They came up with the best acronym. Cops love acronyms.
Right.
Their acronym is patrol. So anytime you get into a situation where you think this shit's about to go down, you got to start thinking of this acronym patrol. So P starts for planning. So you got to be able to, okay, Hector, we got to come up with a plan, how the fuck we're going to arrest this dude, right? Because, I don't know, there's a lot of shit going on, right? A is for assessment. We have to assess. T is for time. Is time of the essence, or do we have time? I don't know. That's something that we have to weigh and measure, right? The R is for resources. Right? I'm sorry, it's for redeployment.
Redeployment?
Yeah, it's redeploying, right? Or, finding concealment. So, for example, I don't know, we're in the middle of the field, and next thing you know, this dude fucking pulls out a gun. Well, fucking A, we got to go get cover, right? We have to redeploy maybe all the sources. Who knows, right? Yeah. And so the O stands for other resources. Hey, let's get a crisis negotiation team out here. Let's get... Maybe it's a SWAT call out. We got to get SWAT out here, whatever the case may be. And last but not least, it's the lines of communication. So the lines of communications means that it's not just you and I talking.
Okay.
It's the sergeant who's at scene. It's the person who actually called. It may be the victim.
Wow.
It's also the suspect. So you want to be able to have a lot of communication with what's going on. So this acronym patrol really spells out what you're supposed to do today. And it is what the state of California wants. What I'm telling you is that if you're in shape or not, well, let's just say if you're completely fucking out of shape,
Right.
you probably have more time to kind of think about de-escalating. But back then,
So let me
no,
give
man.
you a scenario because this is what, let me clarify it for you.
okay.
But I totally agree with what you're saying, and I understand that concept. Working in a prison as a supervisor, man, I seen a lot of officer, and you said it, you hit it perfectly. Ask, tell, and make. I'm going to ask the individual, and if he doesn't do it, I'm going to tell him.
Correct.
And if he doesn't do it, I'm going to make him.
Correct.
Ask, tell, make.
Yes.
As a supervisor, I've seen a lot of times where an officer will go to grab an inmate to put him in handcuffs, and the inmate will pull away.
Right.
To us, that's an imminent threat, right? Because we don't know if he's going to come back and punch the
Right.
officer. But at that point, the officer disengages what he already started, right? And anybody that has experience in arresting somebody or placing somebody in restraints, you don't ever disengage that fight once it's on.
Right. Good point. The only thing that I would say is that, you know, it sucks to be that sergeant or that lieutenant to debrief, but you got to look at your partner and say, hey, dude, the fuck are you thinking? Can't do
This
that.
was a freaking, this is contagious, bro.
Yeah.
This is a fucking problem.
Right. Well, you know, one of the things that it kind of remind me of my last time before I retired, I worked the trains because MTA, we had the contract, LAPD, and I'm just going to check on my guys on the platform, and I get flagged down, and this lady's like, "Oh my God, this guy's killing me," and you can tell this dude was after her, kind of looks like he had a weapon. Dude, I go code 6, I'm at scene, dude, and I'm just looking at this guy going, please, whatever you do, just don't run. I'm not running. I'm not going to run because I really know what I have, right? So unbeknownst to me, they put out a backup. You know, it was an ADW, solid deadly weapon call. And so, of course, I put myself code 6, I'm asking for additional units. This dude was fucking out of his mind, dude. He wasn't just 5150. He was like 5151, bro.
Wow.
Maybe 5152 because
Wow.
what he ended up doing was, you know, those big old trash can containers, right?
Yeah.
He decides to lay himself out prone with a hand underneath, you know, the actual trash can container. And he's going, I'm going to blow this place up. Don't come near me. Don't come near me. And for a second, he had me going, while I'm waiting, he had me going, man, maybe he does have something in his fucking hand. So what do? I kind of walk around. I get in a push-up position. Look, I go, man, this guy's full of shit.
Was he
right?
homeless?
Yeah. Dude, he was crazy and probably a trancer, right? 1942 trancer is what we used to call him, right? So what ends up happening is my officers get there, and one of the officers, dude, he was like 6'3", solid, big dude, young, you know, slick hair. Okay, Sarge, what do you want us to do? So this to your point, I said, listen, here's what we're going to do. Sling the beanbag button. You three are going to approach, dude, and I'm here to tell you, the minute, not even the minute, the second you put your hands on him, he better not fucking squirm. You better arrest him and grab his hands as fast as you can. Use as much force as you can.
Right.
Do what you got to do to effect that arrest.
Right.
And code 4 in custody. We're good to go. And they did.
That's awesome,
so
bro.
my point to you is that I can only imagine in a prison environment where shit's probably happening daily,
All day long.
all day long. And it's one of those things where you should do some self-reflection, whoever that correctional officer is, and say, you know what, maybe I do need to take some BJJ. Maybe I do need to improve because this kind of shit where I disengage, that shit ain't happening, bro.
Well, I know what it is. It's the fear of getting fired. And maybe you can speak on that as we progress. It's they're thinking about, I'm going to get fired, as opposed to thinking, I might possibly get fucking killed right now. But I wanted to talk back on, or add more to the de-escalation. Let me tell you something right now, bro. If you're a police officer and you get slapped in the fucking face, you're not de-escalating anything. Would you agree or would you not agree?
100%. What people don't understand also is that using lethal force is part of de-escalating. So, for example, there is a gun or a knife right here, right? And I'm sitting right here. You're standing over there and you say to me, Marlon, suspect, don't reach. Oh, and by the way, you got the 40. You got the beanbag.
Okay.
Right? And you're telling him, dude, if you fucking grab that gun, that knife, whatever, that weapon, I'm gonna hit you. And it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt bad. oh yeah, fuck you, go ahead. And then once I start going for it, pop, you hit them with non-lethal, right? Less lethal force. That's de-escalating. People don't seem to understand that. You get punched in the face, you're right. There is no de-escalation. You and I drove up to 7-Eleven, we hear pop, 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 pop. And dude starts running with a fucking AK-47. We're not de-escalating. So de-escalation is not something that we should say, hey, we're going to go in here and de-escalate. One, two, what my boss over at Savage Training Group talks a lot about is that it's an invitation. You have to buy into it, suspect. You can't just come up to a suspect and say, boop, you've been de-escalated.
Right.
Here we go. No, you have to get a buy-in.
Yeah, you're not just checking a block.
Well, not only that, I mean, if I'm talking to you and you're not even fucking, you can care less what I'm saying to you.
Right.
I did a breakdown of a video with this lady's female black. She's huge. She's in the car. The cops pulled her over. Bro, she just ran a stop sign. And she's sitting there going, no, I'm not. I'm not getting out of the car. She had a suspended driver's license, right? It's a crime.
Right.
To try to get out of the car. They even warned her and told her, listen, if you don't get out of the car, we're going to have to use force to get you out of the car. You can't get any more clear than that.
Right.
And so next thing you know, the fight was on. Dude, they get her out. Bro, she was like 6'3". She's huge. Huge in stature. And she decides to kick the cop like by the nuts, bro. And then he turns around and punches her in the face. So everybody's commenting like, oh my God, she's a female. I can't believe you punched her in the face. Well, shit, this bitch fucking kicked me. And, it took two of them to get this lady, to get their hands and go into custody. So my point is that there are situations where you can de-escalate because the state requires you to do so.
Right.
But there's a lot of situations also, and keep that in mind, where de-escalation is just not something that, is at issue. Dude, or is presented.
I'm so glad I have you here today, bro, because I like to leave the viewers with a message, with knowledge, with wisdom, bro. And this is going to hopefully save people's lives, man, because to me, hesitation kills, right? Hesitation will get you killed.
I agree, 100%. The average OIS is less than 2 seconds. You have to, you will be scrutinized and you'll be completely judged by the things that, guess what? The things that you didn't do more than the things that you did on that particular incident. And so what ends up happening is you can't risk that, man. We're talking about, number one, we're talking about your freedom, meaning you could get filed on criminally. And number two, you got to get home to your family. It's a matter of life and death. And these are situations where I remember you were telling me the story when you came on the podcast about Edward Scissorhands.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you even broke his wrist.
Broke his forearm.
You're right. And he still.
Well, he was high on meth.
That's my point. So certain circumstances are going to lead you to getting it on. And I tell you, if you're not doing BJJ, that is it. That is a way of controlling.
Right.
And getting, I think one of the hardest parts that I've seen, because I've been doing a lot of breakdowns lately, is...
Oh, yeah, I've been watching you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Is for every time that someone is on the ground, you want to get the hands
right
to get in the back, and that becomes a big, big challenge for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And so that in it itself, if you can go and learn, man, my suggestion is, have at it.
So on to the next question.
Yes.
People see a video footage of of police officers punching a woman in the face, refusing to get out of the car. Now, I want you to tell us what is Graham versus Connor.
Yeah, well, Graham v. Connor is your objectionable reasonable standard, right? So you have to, it's like a set of 11 questions or 11 ways to analyze as to what force was necessary at the time. Hindsight being 2020, right? Objectively reasonable. So what ends up happening is that Graham v. Connor, right, was codified into 835 APC. So basically, the state of California is saying you need to consider Graham v. Connor, which, by the way, we've been doing that since back in my days, 25 years. I mean, I thought about Graham v. Connor way back in my days, So I can't spell out all 11, type of analysis, but something is along the lines of, hey, what was your stature? Where were you standing? What led you to believe that this person was getting ready to commit, a felony, or this person getting ready to pretty much threaten you to cause you harm. So all these circumstances, and facts. These are facts. These are just not opinions.
Right.
These are factual bases that you'll see in your body worn video, where there is this analysis that people do on Graham v. Connor, no any different than we did with the Landmark case that happened. Oh gosh, you're taking me way back. I think Graham v. Connor happened, 15, 20 years ago?
Probably more than that.
Yeah,
but,
it's an old case.
But the best part about it is that the use of force shall be judged from the perspective of the officer on scene.
Correct. Yes. However, and we can go through this whole lecture about 835 APC because, again, Graham v. Connor is codified into 835 APC. However, that's just a little part of 835 APC. Then you have Hayes v. San Diego, which is your totality of the circumstances.
Wow.
So now what the state is saying, okay, Hector, check this out. Everything that you actually did up until the point where you engaged, right, into deadly force, we're going to kind of judge you and see if maybe you could have done things different. And if it's so substantial and if it's so egregious, chances are we might even fall on you,
Yeah. I'm like, hey, if I could have done something different, I would have done something different to
Yeah.
prevent this fucking shooting.
Exactly.
I didn't wake up this morning wanting to shoot somebody.
Right. 100%. So when you start thinking about de-escalation, when you start thinking about Graham v. Connor, this objective or reasonable standards, High Sign B in 2020, you start thinking about totality of circumstances, right? Hayes v. San Diego. All these things that the state of California wants you to be educated enough to make that decision when you engage. Bro, you have less than 2 seconds to make that decision.
Absolutely.
So that's part of the challenge, which, by the way, if you're thinking about becoming a law enforcement officer, I would always say this, you're not going to get enough training in your department. You need to get outside training. Of course, you can always go to Savage Training Group. We can talk about that later. However,
go ahead and plug it right now, bro.
Yeah, Savage Training Group is where I teach. I teach a 3-day internal affairs course for all you are going to get promoted to sergeant and sergeants who are beginning their tour in internal affairs. Come see us for a 3-day tour, a 3-day investigative basic course. And we also have the 2-day officer-involved shooting course, which is the kind of things that we're talking about now, where we really dive deep and go down these rabbit holes about 835 APC. So it's kind of hard to explain it all in one. Right. I thank you for putting me on the spot about Graham v. Connor because I didn't know I was going to talk about Graham v. Connor.
Oh, bro, you got to come prepared, man.
Graham v. Connor is...
With that Savage, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so savagetraininggroup.com, and we'll put all the stuff in the...
definitely.
But yeah, man, it's a full plate of information that you definitely want to have. I think the biggest challenge in law enforcement now is that when you check the box, right, or it's a death by PowerPoint.
Right. How important is it for a police officer / law enforcement officer to familiarize themselves with policy, procedure, law, and case law?
Oh, that's every day, man. You know what? Look, I consider the 835 APC to be the Bible. You have to know, man. Look, those days, back in my days and in your days, when I thought of 835 APC, I thought about what? Ooh, effect and arrest.
Right.
Overcome resistance and prevent an escape.
Right.
Shit, I'm good to go. Right? Then about 10 years after I came on, because I came on in 1998, 1999, then came, okay, we're going to add a little bit more. Defense of others and defense of property. Okay, great. I think I know my shit. Wrong. I'll show you a sheet that the briefing room, Jason Lewis, the CEO, made up where it is completely revamped. We already talked about the fact that Graham v. Connor is codified. Hayes v. San Diego, totality of circumstances is codified. De-escalation is mentioned in 835 APC that you might want. And then dealing with the mental illness, right? Tactical disengagement. There is just a host of stuff. We haven't even gotten into the use of deadly force, which is a whole different conversation that we can have. So my point is that you constantly have to read it. But don't read it just to say, oh, I read it.
Right.
Read it and discuss it with your partner and run scenarios. I really believe that if you're in even in the prison environment, go have roll call and just grab a whole bunch of YouTube videos and just break stuff down, man, because you never know when it's going to happen, right?
Oh, but it is going to happen,
But
right?
it's going to, 100%. 100% is going to happen.
Absolutely.
And I think that's super, super important. But yeah, that, and then of course, I'm being a little biased because I teach internal affairs, your peace officers, Bill of Rights. This POBAR is super important.
Ooh, we'll dive, holy shit, bro. There's so much to talk about on this.
There's this saying that sometimes, I shouldn't say sometimes, in some agencies, we won't mention many, but in some agencies, man, there are partners and colleagues that are more afraid that what happens in the inside than actually getting involved in an OIS.
Absolutely.
Or in a use of force, and that's shitty, which is the reason why I decided to start this Internal Affairs, a police podcast, because, look, if we're going to be transparent,
Yeah.
you know what? We do a good job with the public,
Right.
but we don't do it amongst ourselves.
Correct.
When is the last time you actually had a conversation about the shit that your fucking boss put you through, when in reality, all you were trying to do is the right thing and you got jammed up for it?
Well, basically what it turns into is in-house bitching and moaning that goes nowhere,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's actually like me and you are fucking actually taking a stand and doing something bigger than just bitching and moaning.
Right. Not only that, and then what happens is that when you do get faced with an internal affairs complaint, people call it an IA, it's a shitty feeling.
Oh, big time, dude.
And then guess what? You're ordered not to talk about it. So now you're like, what the fuck, bro? I can't go to my fucking, you can't even talk about it.
Facts, dude.
So that kind of, that just puts you in a whole different fucking level in the island all by yourself. Then you're ostracized, maybe.
Right.
But worse than all is, oh shit, Hector got an IA. You know what? We're boys, but now I can't talk to you.
Yeah. It's almost like a badge of honor these days, man. The culture has changed. But I can imagine you sat in many courtrooms. Have you seen a lot of police officers get picked apart because they didn't know the law? Hey, guys, consider becoming a patron where you will get first exclusive dibs on the video before it airs to the public, and you'll get to ask the guests special questions that you have in mind. So that's also another way to support the channel. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all of you. Keep pushing forward. Make sure you hit that link in the description below. Or policy.
In the LAPD, when I worked internal affairs, I was basically a prosecuting glorified attorney is what I was. I represented the chief of police, and we went through this civil trial where it's a 3-panel member. Traditionally, it's 2 command staff officers and 1 civilian. That civilian is always a lawyer, for the most part.
Okay.
And officers were accused of some serious shit, lying, perjury, or just an off-duty incident that just, a DUI where you lied, whatever, just really egregious stuff. And so I've seen it and witnessed, right? I should say I witnessed where internal affairs investigators, they just didn't do the right thing, man. The quality of the investigation was just half-baked is what I like to describe it as. And so what ends up happening is that that's where my mantra, where I really felt that, you know what, I'm going to give back to the next generation. And my mantra has always been, no stone goes unturned. So even if it's the stupidest, like the craziest type of complaint that an officer is being alleged, you know what, do your best job to investigate that. And so what ends up happening, to your point, is that, hell yeah, I watched IOs, investigating officers, get picked apart. Like, really, dude? I had one where an officer, I'll never forget this, he was facing a false statement, lying, right? And he was very proud. Like, he had like a fucking attitude, like fuck yeah, like I want, basically like kind of like a dick, like he needs to go because he was a liar, right? That's the IO. Okay. This is the investigating officer. It's his case.
I got you.
He framed that allegation of lying. And so we're listening to all this. It's a whole bunch of bullshit about he went through a divorce and ends up harassing some other woman, starts following her, kind of like stalker type behavior. Anyways, there was a situation where he had to go pick up his kids, and basically where he was standing to pick up his kids was contradictory to where she said he was standing to pick up the kids at the house. So what does he do? He decides to frame a false statement. Like he lied about this, right? So here we are at the hearing.
Wow.
And one of the board members actually used to be a lawyer, right? Which made it even worse. He was a captain, right? I'll never forget him. Good dude. So he looks at the IO while he's sitting in the witness stand and he says, okay, hey, let me ask you something. Do you know what the definition of a false or misleading statement is, or special order here in LAPD? He's like, caught you. You don't know. Here's what we're going to do. I want you to read it. So Department, Defense, go to introduce as an exhibit. You introduce it. I want you to read it. I want you to read it verbatim. And once you're done reading it, let me know. Okay? So he does, so are you done reading? He goes, yes, sir. He goes, okay. Because here's the problem that I have, is that you went out of your way to frame an allegation that he is lying. Now, you have to remember that this particular allegation, it is so serious.
Absolutely.
So egregious that if we were to find him guilty, he's going to get removed, lose his career, practically turn his whole life upside down. So you better be damn sure that if we're going to be accusing him of lying, it better be a good fucking lie. And all it was just the fact that there was this positioning where he says that he was standing.
Right.
And the accused says, no, that where I picked up my kids. My point is that I understand that the burden of proof is preponderance. I understand it's more likely than not. I understand that it's 51%. But when you start talking about alleging serious type of misconduct against any law enforcement officer, you better crank that shit up to 80, and you better have a hell of an amount of evidence to prove that you're actually lying. And so to me, that kind of gave me an idea that, like, you know what? This is what gives IA.
Now, what have I told you in the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation in the year 2022, 90% of all internal affairs investigations are based on dishonesty, on frivolous allegations, from my experience and perspective.
Right. And I take it no one challenged the allegation.
Well, because the system is corrupt, and I've been doing a good job of exposing that, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, what's your take on that? That's how severe it is in the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
I think it's going to take having a platform like this and many, many more to make administrators understand that if we're alleging that one of our subordinates is lying, it's got to be pretty serious. You can't just lie when you say, well, did you go to prison cell number 20? But camera says that you were number 23. You know what? I wasn't 23. You were lying. No.
That's it.
No. You see what I'm saying? So when you start talking about lying, you got to have
malice intent. Malicious intent.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe, you have to have like some really deceitful intentions, right? Bro. Like, I want to hide this shit. Bro, I'll give you one-on-one. The one that I did, where was an off-duty officer who was involved in a traffic accident. Bro, he was lit, and he said that he had 2 shots of vodka, 3 ounces at home. But then again, then he blows 22.
Wow.
Okay, that's lying.
Correct.
Okay, that's pretty serious, especially when he caused injuries when they ended up, some of the victims and the parties had to go to the hospital. It was so bad. So there's a big difference. I think that's that old saying, we do it to ourselves. We eat ourselves all the time. And in a prison environment, it's even worse. Because once you start accusing someone that you're fucked up and you're lying, then really? And you expect them to come back to work?
Right.
It's completely demoralizing.
Absolutely.
I don't think we understand it. And the only way that we're going to change this culture, right? Because it's more of a culture.
Oh, for sure, dude.
Is people listening and watching your platform, watching all these police platforms, where we talk about having these conversations about what's right and what's wrong. Hey, listen, if you're a lieutenant in a correctional facility And chances are you're going to get promoted. And you know that one of your colleagues, let's just say you don't even know him. Let's just even say that you kind of don't even like him, or he's got a bad reputation. But they're going to go and frame an allegation of dishonesty. You should make very, very certain that that lie is pretty reckless, right? It's got to be deceitful. Not some chicken shit everyday type shit where, you know, oh, and by the way, when you're an IO, and this is what we teach also, is that just because you give someone one bite of the apple to answer this question, don't just fucking move on to another set of questions and open up another door. No.
Right.
Be very certain and don't hide the ball. If you have evidence to tell that attorney or that rep, hey, listen, I'm going to ask him this. Here's what we got. Just want to make sure that you understand. You want to talk to your client, we'll be out in the room. You know, we'll come back when you guys are ready. That's the part that's missing. But the problem is that it gets personal. I always say this. It's self-serving, and somewhere in the levels of review, you know, I don't fucking like Hector.
It's all
I don't
personal,
like Marlon.
man.
So you know what? Fucking just give him a 5-day suspension.
It's all personal,
yeah,
man.
it's personal. It's self-serving. That is
Egotistical, narcissistic maniacs,
yes,
man.
Yes.
And that's why I resigned. You know?
Good for you.
So how many years were you a police officer before you went into IA, Internal Affairs?
I made sergeant in 2007.
Okay.
So I did about 9-10 years as a police officer. Out of those 9 and 10 years, and all my LAPD guys will laugh at this, you know, you didn't work the streets. You don't have any street cred because I worked the valley, you know. I did my time in the streets, but, you know, not hardcore. I mean, I didn't do 77 Southwest, Southeast, you know, Rampart, anything like that. But I always felt, and this is just part of my personality, that I like to learn quickly, which I do, and move on. That's the kind of, you know, I'm wired that way. When I actually get something, okay, cool. I'll do it for like 2 or 3 years. You know what?
Right.
I'm good. But the one thing that stuck to me the most is discipline. You know, I always felt this is the one topic that not many of us get to really discuss because it's very taboo.
When you get into internal affairs, is it like a secret society amongst you guys? Is it very tight-lipped? And do they send you to all kinds of courses, investigative courses right off the bat?
No, well, I wouldn't say it's, you know, some sorority, if you will, right? It's not, you are in a different building, you're not seen. But to be quite honest with you, a lot of people take this job because there's just flexibility with scheduling. It works for the family. So people don't really think about the actual job.
Really?
Yeah, for the most part. I can speak for, I don't know, 80, 90% of my colleagues that decided to go into internal affairs. No different than me. Someone asked me, hey, why'd you go internal affairs? That's a very good question. Because I really thought hard about it. And a lot of my motivation was because I was a Sergeant 1. And when you're a Sergeant 1 in LAPD, your goal is to get that rocker, which is a Sergeant 2. It's 5.5%. And then you have 4 more steps. It's more money.
Right.
But those Sergeant 2, that rocker, are hard to come by. You have an assistant watch commander at the station to be a watch commander. That's a Sergeant 2 spot. Vice, Sergeant 2 spot.
Wow.
Community relations, Sergeant 2 spot. You want to go be the commander's aide, AKA bitch? That's a 2 spot.
What do they do? Drive their car around? And
They
stuff
do
like that?
all the secretarial work, scheduling, reviewing, preparing everything for the boss, right? So those are very, and then of course you have internal affairs. That's a rocker. So when there's openings, you know, I get weekends off, you know, flex schedule, telecommute. It works. It works for people. So it's not like the movies and it's not like TV shows. But a lot of internal affairs investigators, and I'm going to be a little critical on, you know, my beloved LAPD. I really don't think that the actual internal affairs school, and I guess I'm being biased because I teach it. It's not what it's supposed to be. Number one, it's 4 days. You don't need 4 days.
You don't need 4 days?
The state of California mandates, for whatever reason, 26 hours, which is 3 days.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 24 hours. So all you got to do is have 3, and now we're competing with the big boys now at Savage Training Group, because now every sergeant that gets promoted, right, to that rank in the state of California has to take a 24-hour basic certification investigative internal affairs investigation course. So, come see us. And LAPD is good, but I feel that it's time to revisit the agenda and see what we can do different, because things are always changing.
But the position of a internal affairs officer, isn't it not to investigate other officers?
True. It's to investigate all complaints. All complaints. Public being the most popular. So if you right now, you and I are done with this podcast episode, and we, go to 7-Eleven and we see 2 dudes fighting, and then all of a sudden they want to fight you and I, and we come to find out they're off-duty LAPD officers, well, we're going to want to call, depending on the circumstances. I'm just giving an example. That would be an off-duty incident. So that would be handled by Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs has an administrative section and a criminal section. They've been talking about merging and just having a one true Internal Affairs. But the majority of complaints, IAs, come from the public. In 1 year alone, when I was there, we were averaging north of 3,000 a year.
Jesus. Now, do you need a special type of blessing or certificate or license to be able to go after other cops?
No.
I would imagine it wouldn't be a peer-on-peer thing, right? Conflict of interest, or that's not a conflict of interest?
No, I mean, sometimes what I will say is, if it's an employee on employee related type of alleged misconduct, you definitely have to, as a lieutenant, right, as the boss of that section of that unit, you have to be very cognizant as to who are we talking about. So let's just say you and I work Wilshire Division, and we just got a job. Both you and I work IA. And so we get a complaint from Wilshire Division.
Oh, okay. Conflict of interest.
Right. And then we got to come out to our boss and say, hey, dude, you know what?
Right.
Yeah, I just feel better if I don't. Conflict of interest only arises if you are a potential witness and or might end up being a accused. That's where it's conflicting. But for you to investigate, I wouldn't say necessarily it's a conflict.
Okay.
I would just say that it's kind of shitty to investigate your own partner.
So what are the two? You said witness, and what's the other one? Subject?
Accused.
Witness and accused.
Yeah.
All right. For CDCR, it's witness and subject.
Yeah.
You're either the witness or the subject in an investigation.
Today's witness is tomorrow's subject.
I love that, bro. No shit, dude, because like people are like, oh, I'm only a witness. Oh, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see. Maybe tomorrow you won't be.
Yeah, dude. Wow. So, did you initially like it when you took the role of IA, man? Learning curve. Once you got past that learning curve, man, did you find your groove?
Yeah, I was at officer rep section. I was defending cops. So what you guys call your union reps, we actually have a full-blown unit, 11 of us. Majority of us were sergeants. And so our job was to rep cops. When a cop will call ORS, officer rep section, say, hey, I got this complaint got adjudicated, sustained, this is bullshit, I never did this. Okay, let's do an appeal, let's do a skelly. So that was, and we rolled out to all these OISs. Because what happens is that if you're involved in an OIS, an officer involved shooting, the attorney gets the big bucks for the shooting officer only. Right. Guess who's left representing and going through the whole process of all the precipient witnesses? The rep.
Guys.
Yeah. So I was at ORS, I was at officer rep section, and I did an appeal of a police officer who had 2 sustained allegations, and we did the hearing, and it got overturned. But when it got overturned by the hearing officer to our favor, so they became unfounded. And so, but it's not binding, which means that the hearing officer, who was a commanding officer, right, LAPD, he was a captain, he has to go to the chief and get him to sign.
Wow.
Pretty much tell the chief, you know what, we screwed up.
Yeah.
We should have never sustained these allegations. And I did it. So in the 7 years that Chief Bratton was at LAPD, he only overturned 3 appeals, and I was one of them. So the lieutenant at Internal Affairs really liked me. We kind of knew each other.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey, man, there's an opening to come right up here to the advocate section, not to investigate. Right up here, your whole job is to put on these border rights and these admin appeals.
Did you?
And I put in for it, and that's when I got my rocker. And,
Okay.
You know, I got my Sergeant 2 spot. So the transition I made was from defending to actually prosecuting.
Cops.
To prosecuting cops. But I started realizing that what I really had a major challenge with is the investigations.
Because they were
Shitty,
bullshit.
man. They're fucking, well, not only that. Think of it this way. To be in the advocate section as a sergeant representing the chief of police to go to these border rights hearings, to go to these hearings.
Yeah.
The hearing's been in existence for decades.
Right.
Right? In the LAPD. We're the only agency that does it throughout the United States. But it's supposed to be used as a platform, all right, or a stage to prosecute you for serious misconduct.
Right.
Lying, perjury,
Right.
DV.
Yeah.
You know, just real bad stuff.
It's something to get you fired from
Something's
shit
gonna
can
get
from
you
the
turned.
job.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? It got watered down. It got watered down to where someone, again, gets personal,
Right.
believes, oh, this person's fucking lying. Send them to a
Absolutely.
board. So as an advocate, you're putting this thing on and you're like, dude, we don't even have 51%. So the point that I want to drive to your audience is that, and whoever you are, one day you're going to end up being an adjudicator, is really take the time. Take the time to read and take the time to listen to everything. Don't just depend on the paraphrase statement, and don't depend on the IIO. Don't depend on that lieutenant presenting that case to you saying, well, yeah, you know what, they did A, B, and C, we're good to go. No, you know what? Hey, thanks for briefing me. I'll get back to you in a day or two. And just sit there. If you really feel you have a hunch, especially when we start talking about serious misconduct, you know what? Take the time to really review everything with a fine-tooth comb.
Now I'm curious to know from your perspective, man, what is the reasoning and motive behind those shitty investigations? Is it A, incompetence, B, laziness, or C, vindictiveness, and they're trying to maybe step on somebody else to climb up the chain of command?
I would say all of the above, with C not being so prominent.
Wow, and C is prominent in CDCR. It's kind of, I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah,
dude.
A for sure. Incompetence. Yeah, of course. The fuck, bro? The fuck kind of investigator are you? You know, there's a reason why homicide detectives work force investigation, FID, right? So in other words, you want experienced robbery and homicide detectives working the shooting team,
Right.
wouldn't you?
Yeah, so how do they get in those positions? Homie
Well,
hookups?
I mean, that you got to have that experience.
Nepotism?
Of course. Some people are voluntold.
Well, don't hold back, bro. I
you
want
know
to
what?
hear the juicy...
I'll give you the juice, bro. I've taught all up and down Northern California. There's some sergeants that are like, especially in small departments, are like, hey man, you're going to IA next month. You're like, oh, what? I don't want to go to IA. There's people who don't even want to go to IA. So when you work for a big organization, you're cool.
Public sector.
Yeah, you can kind of work your way. You know, if you work like Los Angeles Sheriff, San Diego, San Bernardino, you know, Riverside, you got cushion to go hide somewhere.
Yeah.
But fucking hey, bro, you work at a small agency, that sergeant's retiring, you're next. And you're like, whoa, hold on. Wait, hold the phone, bro. I don't want to fucking do this. So the fact of the matter is, to be competent, we're not asking you to, you know, fucking figure out pi equals 3.14. No, it's not that shit, you know.
Right.
It's not chemist, you know.
Correct.
Space X type shit. But my point is, you have to be willing and able to learn how to investigate and to follow every single stone that's there. And what happens is people take shortcuts to your point B, you get fucking lazy.
Take shortcuts at your fucking at your expense, man.
Yes.
Because then as you get shit canned as the employee.
You and I were talking about that one about your IA. with your LOR. You know?
Oh, my
I don't
God,
think that
bro.
we can use, hold on a second. I don't think that we can use these video surveillance cameras to fucking jam that dude up. But my point is that, and I know the majority of your audience is CDCR. Let's just say, for example, there is a use of force at a block in New York somewhere, right? And your sergeant depicts and timestamps, hey, from 22:23 to 25:38 is where it happened.
Right.
You know what? Thank you. But if I were you, fuck that. I'm watching the whole thing. You know, just...
We went through that.
You know, you see what I'm saying? Is that that's part of being thorough. That's part of being, you know what?
I'll take you one step further, though, man. We went through that when we initially got the body-worn camera and the AVSS. And our administrators, they're like, nah, let's watch the whole tape. And, oh, look, while they're in the break room and they said a cuss word, let's write them up for saying that cuss word in the break room. And that's where we're at. That's where that department is at.
Right. So
days.
that happened, too, in LAPD where there was same thing, use of force. The sergeant itself reviewed that timestamp where it actually happened. But then it keeps going, and then he flips him off, or he says something like, oh, the only reason why you pulled me over is because I'm black. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so 2 weeks later, he decides to come in to make a complaint. And so now that they review the whole thing, now it's at bureau, so it's at the next level.
Wow.
So they're saying, well, we have an expectation for you to review the whole thing, and you should have caught that, so therefore, we're going to give you an IA. So our response was...
It's such a mess, bro.
Hold on a second. Our response is... Great, that's fine, I know. But show me in the body-worn video policy that says that, number one, I have to watch the whole thing.
Right.
Two, that we're going on a fishing expedition. That's not what it's meant for.
Right, bro.
There's a big difference between policy and expectations.
I like that.
I can care less about what you expect. I fucking expect tomorrow to win the lottery, and I'm going to go buy me a fucking Porsche.
Absolutely.
Okay? I expect that to happen. But... that's not policy.
Correct.
So let's just stay. Okay. And
absolutely.
And sir, if you allow me, I'll go talk to him about him cussing.
Right.
Of tactical foul language. Call it what you want.
Correct.
Hey, Hector, next time, dude, just, but Sarge, LT, he was fucking me up. Okay, great. But, just tone it down a little.
That easy, man.
And then we're done. But yeah, that happens a lot.
What is Peace Officer Bill of Rights?
POBAR, back in 1971, in the 70s, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department and the Los Angeles Police Department got together and said, you know what? They went to Governor Brown. Back then, they said, hey, man, we need protection because we're doing it to ourselves. Cops, we're just fucking our shit up. Not the public, amongst us. Shit like we're talking about.
Right.
Oh, you know what? You're fucking lying to it. Let's go in a room, and here comes 3 sergeants and a lieutenant.
Absolutely.
And you're sitting there, and they're just fucking peppering you with questions.
Correct.
Well, hold on a second. This, slow down, And so what ends up happening is there was a lot of accusations about cops doing a whole bunch of stuff that's wrong. Immoral,
interrogations, pretty much.
Unethical.
Unethical.
And there was just no boundaries. There was no rules as to how officers should be investigated, how officers should be interrogated, and how officers should be treated with internal affairs. So that was the rise of Peace Officers Bill of Rights, and it's been quite a ride. I mean, we're what 40? Yeah, we're 40, 50 years in.
Now, is that law?
That is, so it's Government Code 3300.
Government Code 3300.
It's 3300. In the California Government Code, it's 3300. So you have 3300 to 3313.
Okay.
This is the shittiest part about teaching.
No, I love it, bro. This is fucking, this is what's going to keep you employed.
Yeah, well, put it this way. 3300 is just a definition, right? 3303 is A through J. And A through J, a lot of those A subsections got another 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
So it's a fucking boatload. Then you have 3304, which is your statute of limitations. And then from 3305 all the way to 3313. So it's a heavy load that, guess what, man? not many cops know. They don't know.
They don't know
And
it.
so our class, even though it's the majority are sergeants or people are getting ready to promote to be sergeants, we also invite officers because they also need to know, especially if you get involved in a critical incident. I mean, you need to know
So, two-part question.
Yes.
What happens, like what actually happens, and what should happen when an IA officer violates a cop's pole bar rights?
Well, there's a couple of things that you have an option. One is to obviously raise it and bring it up to the attention of the department, which they're probably going to ignore it because they're the IA investigator. They're supposed to know everything, right? It is a $25,000 federal claim that you can bring to a federal court.
Oh, really?
So each pole bar violations, it's up to $25,000. Now, the burden to prove that gets a little tricky, because we have to know which one it is, and we have to really have a compelling reason as to why the sergeant from internal affairs or whoever, it doesn't necessarily have to be the sergeant. It can even be your captain.
Right.
You getting called in.
Right.
And getting talked about.
Exactly.
Well, I want to talk about what happened yesterday when you were at 7-Eleven with Marlon. Do I need representation? No, you don't. You need to answer my questions. I don't know, Captain. It kind of sounds like you're accusing me of stuff. Yeah, I need to know what happened at 7-Eleven yesterday. You're whoa. I need representation. So it's not necessarily, the point to that example is it's not just the investigating officer internal affairs. It can be you getting brought in to get talked to by your captain, and he or she is just fucking.
I've seen that lead to termination. A captain called in an officer and said, "Hey, buddy, just tell me what happened."
Yeah, no. So,
what advice do you have to the viewers if you're captain, sergeant, lieutenant?
I got you.
There you go, man.
Here's
help these fucking kids out, bro.
Let me help you out. There's only two reasons why you're going to get summoned to the captain's office. All right. Reason number one will be performance. Okay. So you need to, when the lieutenant or the sergeant says, "Hey, Officer Marrocchi, the captain needs to see you," your first question should be, what does he or she need to see me for? Well, you know what? We'll tell you when you get there. Hold on a second. Make it easy. Go ahead and throw the fishbowl out there. Is it a performance issue, or is it a counseling, or is it performance? Which one is it? Oh, we're going to talk about your job and your performance. Not a problem. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Right? You got to talk about, hey, you can't show up late. You doing this, you doing that. Stop screwing around at the break room. Whatever. Those are all performance based. Right. I always got a kick out of like when they say, "Well, you work 12 hours and you only done like 3 traffic stops." Okay, so what are you telling me? Right? Okay, because everybody else is doing fucking 15 doesn't mean that I got to do 15. That's a whole different conversation. But if you get brought in, and even if they say, "Yeah, it's for your performance," and the minute he or she starts talking to you about, "You know what? Were you at 7-Eleven the other day and you saw this unit, black and white, throw someone up against the wall?" Time out. So what kind of questions are you asking me? Well, we're asking you if you saw this. Well, are you accusing me? No, you're just a witness. Still, I don't want to talk to you. Now, if they start talking to you about something that happened at work where it's alleged misconduct, this is why it's so important that you need to know what misconduct is.
Absolutely.
If you don't even know what it is,
you need to know the rules so you can break the rules.
Exactly.
That's what I always say, bro.
Yeah, exactly. If you're accusing me of breaking the rules, I kind of got to know the rules. One,
Right.
two. And if you're going to talk to me about me breaking the rules, I need to have representation just because that's what Peace Officers Bill of Rights allows me to have. And so it happens all the time. I'm sure in your environment, people get called up and they start, What I would do if I were you is I would definitely bring a recorder. And if they said, "Well, we don't want you to record this," well,
what's your experience with insubordination, or let's say the captain threatens? I mean, I've seen some off the wall shit, bro.
Yeah.
And says, "Hey, man, if you don't talk to me, you're being insubordinate."
No, insubordination's got to be a lawful order amongst the high-ranking individual to a lower ranking
Thank you.
individual. It's got to be an order. It's got to be something related to your essential job functions
Right.
of an order. I am ordering you to do this.
I like that, dude.
I am ordering you to go here.
Right.
Or I am ordering you to leave.
Right.
And if you violate that order, that's when you are open for grounds of insubordination.
Bro, I love this, dude. I don't know why. I just love to get dissecting
Yeah,
into the...
this is great.
Yeah, for sure, dude. So part of being IA, man, 2024, YouTube, Instagram, we see a police shooting every day, literally, and you dissect them on your channel.
Yeah.
What is the process, man? Because we see the officer engaging. Sometimes they flip out, or they're adrenaline.
Yeah.
We see the adrenaline dump, man.
Yeah.
What is the process? You get a phone call as the IA rep?
Yeah. You'll be if you're you'll be on call.
You'll be on call.
You'll be on call, and with LAPD we have a communication center. They used to call it Racer, where you have to make notifications. Once the notifications are out, your phone's going to ring. And
who makes the notification? The watch commander?
Well, yeah, for the most part, if you're the sergeant at scene,
okay,
you got a lot of shit going on. So
for whatever reason,
you're going to call the watch commander. I'm going to say probably the majority of the time it's probably going to be the watch commander.
Who's the busiest? The sergeant on scene?
Oh yeah.
Who's doing the most, man? What are they doing?
Well, you got all these plates spinning because hold on a second. All right, so shooting just went down. First of all, how many people shoot? Where are my shooting officers? So those two right there. Okay, not only you guys can't talk. I got to separate and monitor you, right? I got to call other sergeants at scene. Look, now I need to separate them. Okay, but hold on a second. I got to do the PSS. I got to do the public safety statement. So I got to take you over here. Meanwhile, I don't know. Tell me, is the suspect still here? Are there outstanding? So there's so much going on. And at the same time, you got to make notifications to the watch commander, and you got to start setting up a perimeter.
You got victims yelling.
And you got victims down.
Blaring.
Right. So one of the things about the PSS, public safety statement, is which direction did you actually shoot your weapon? And if you say, well, I started in the northeasterly direction, if there has to be an apartment complex, hey, you know what? Stand by. Hold on. Don't be robotic and say, I got to ask you these 9 questions. No, just say, hold on. And you got to go and check and see if they're, where the bullets landed, or if there's any other victims, or, if someone needs aid, whatever the case may be. So that first sergeant at scene has a lot going on. And man, if you work at a small agency and it's late at night, which the majority of OIS has happened at nighttime, man, it's going to be a while before.
How many hours before they get you to go home?
Oh, I mean, it's an all-nighter, bro. It's an all-nighter. My point is that if you're a small agency and you only have one sergeant out in the field and there's an OIS, the sergeant arrives at scene, he or she has to declare themselves to be the incident commander. Okay. Right? Now you have command and control what's going on. Well, fucking A, whoever else is coming might not be close. The watch commander can't leave because he's got to stay. So you might have to get the neighboring agency to come help out. So my point is that it can get a little complex, but the first sergeant at scene has a lot of duties and responsibilities to go by. Then we teach all that in the course.
Nice, dude. Who makes the determination to collapse the crime scene when it's all over?
Internal Affairs will do that. LAPD, it's Force Investigation Division. Once it's a code forward, where they gather all the evidence, they pretty much walk through the whole scene and did I wouldn't even say bare minimum. I would say they did a really good job with preserving everything that's at scene. Then they'll call it off. But it's definitely an all-nighter, man.
Answer this question for me, man, because and maybe the public, right? Because it's not just law enforcement officers that watch this show. It's every walk of life, man. Why does it seem that every time an officer gets shot and or killed in the line of duty, they will turn over every stone, right? A helicopter. This is a serious question. And just go block by block, right? As opposed to just maybe a regular civilian getting killed. Is that a thing? Or do they utilize more resource?
No, well, to your point about having an airship, that would be
anything.
Yeah, of course. Barricaded suspect. you're going to get an airship. Burger 459 in progress. You're going to get an airship.
Okay.
211 just occurred. Fuck, let's get an airship.
Nice.
You have that luxury and that resource like we do in LAPD, you can have it. Even, let's just say, home invasion, robbery. You show up, people are tied up and taped up.
Yeah.
And you just happen to get there within minutes, get an airship and set up a perimeter. So it's not because it's just us when we go to an OIS. Yeah, those resources are there for whether it's an OIS, officer-involved shooting, or just a regular shooting.
If you can remember what is taught or trained is, I've seen the shootings, man, because again, this is just what I watch. They say, they say shots fired, blah, blah, blah. Is that a training protocol? And what does that mean? Does that mean that they got shot at, or do you have are you always confused, or what's your take on that?
That's a good point. We teach that in class too. You bring up a very, very good point. What is shots fired, right? You get on the air, shots fired, shots fired, shots fired. What does that mean to you, right? You and I are in uniform. We're working right now, and we're, fucking eating tacos and shit. And next thing you know, you hear, shots fired, shots fired, shots fired. Okay. Is it that you think you heard like gunshot fired? Could be, right?
Could be.
Right? Or are you being shot at? Or did you shoot?
Right.
Or did you see like a drive-by? So it can mean a lot, right? And so at least in my experience, officer needs help. Officer needs help means pretty much an OIS for the most part. I don't want that to be, completely conclusive to just an OIS. But for the most part, if you're involved in an OIS, you're going to hear over the radio, officer needs help, officer needs help. And then everybody's coming. So to your point, you have to be pretty clear with what do we actually mean by shots fired. We in class actually play on the screen. We actually play just a radio frequency, just a soundbite where it says exactly what you said, shots fired, shots fired. And so then we ask the class, okay, you know what? Discuss it amongst yourselves and tell me what does it mean to you? Because I've always had that problem too. You don't know that, right? Something can sound like a gunshot.
Right.
We don't know that. So yeah, you have to be very clear with what you're saying over the air. But for the most part, if it is going to be an OIS, my suggestion is if you're listening, whatever your protocol is, for us, it's officer needs help.
How common are those calls that come over the radio, man? Like, I'm telling you, it seems almost weekly now. I mean, I don't know if you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing out on the news, but is it that common?
Yeah, the problem is that we have social media now and we have access to,
right.
Shit, police activity is...
Right. Oh, that's a fucking excellent YouTube channel,
I
bro.
know. Shout out to police activity.
Yeah.
They're real good at what they do. I'm with you. I thought to myself, damn, there's that many OISs.
Right.
What I will say is, in terms of dynamics from my experience, South Los Angeles is definitely more violent. And you'll see on a Friday or Saturday night, gang-on-gang shootings. But OISs, no. I mean, at one year alone, this might be a lot, but when I was there in 2017, 100. 100 in 1 year. That's a lot.
That is a lot, man.
Yeah, but you compare that to
Chicago or
9,000 plus sworn officers in LAPD with the amount of radio calls that we get. We're talking about a very small fraction of the population, but it's a lot. Another one would be, it's a good example is shout out to Josh Coleman, who used to work for Vallejo, which I didn't know was considered one of the most violent cities.
Really?
And yes, in California, there was like 6 OISs in like less than a year in a small town. And apparently in Vallejo, which is up north, it's a city where all crimes are being committed by the actual community member and residents that actually live there. So as opposed to, other cities where people come in and commit crimes.
From your experience, you hear that there's 100 officer-involved shootings in a city in a year. From your experience, what is the cause of that? let's say I'm the governor of California and I want to know, hey, Marlon, why am I having so many officer-involved shootings here? What would be the answer from your experience?
Well, it's not an easy answer or a short one. What I would say to the governor is a lot of the decision making that officers are doing when it's time to engage probably has to do with not being educated. One, two, not being trained. But for the most part, who are we to judge them making a decision in less than 2 seconds? Would you want it to be reduced? Probably. Which, again, we have all these things codified into 835 APC. I mean, it's a good question. It's just kind of hard to answer because how do you reduce OISs? Because it goes to your what you were saying earlier about hesitancy. I don't want you to hesitate.
Correct.
You know, just because you make a decision in which, in your mind, in your perception, from your lens, you thought it was the right thing to do. So how do I get you to think that, well, what you were actually thinking at the time was not right? And I don't think that we...
More so what I was trying to get at was, hey, maybe is there a rise in crime? Maybe the criminals are out of control, and maybe that's a contributing factor? Because we can want to stop officer-involved shootings all day long.
Correct.
However, if cops are getting shot at, they have to defend their lives.
100%. I mean, crime can be in an uptick, you know, to the point where it's probably the highest in years, right? And I just don't know if the uptick in crime or, you know, crime in it itself, right? Because it's more of a societal issue, right? Has to do with trying to reduce OISs. Could be. I mean, you bring up a good point, and I'm thinking about it right now, just off the shoulder, maybe like Prop 47, for example, right?
Right.
So you got Prop 47, which, you know, allows all these...
AB 109?
Yeah, you got AB 109, which you allowed all these low-level misdemeanor people out. They got to get their fix. So, yeah, they're going to go and commit crimes. You have a weapon, you show up, chances are you might engage in deadly force. Now, if we're going to do the new Prop 36,
Yeah.
where you're not getting out, yeah, there could be a slight reduction of officer-involved shootings, but I don't think that we, even this myself including, have any right to be coming up to someone and judging you and saying that, you know what, you shouldn't have done that. This is what you should have done. That's why I hate, and I want to be clear, yeah.
I agree.
I've done breakdowns, and I got to be honest with you, I don't really like doing OISs because I try to stay away from them. I really, really do.
I feel you.
Because I'm nobody to pass any scrutiny or any judgment on what you actually did that day, right? And so I try to be very, very careful with, you know, the department that I am breaking down. So I try to do all the other stuff. Now, with that being said, could we learn?
Right, yeah, no, it's a great learning tool, absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
But it's a shitty position to be in when you're telling someone, you know, you could have done different. I just don't see that being a...
What kind of stress goes through a police officer's mind, body, and soul after an officer-involved shooting?
Yeah, well, you know what? I was fortunate to roll out to these, to talk to these officers. I was also fortunate to bring in 12 guests for this show called Details that we finally got one up, and we reenacted one of the scenes. And thank God it's going to be released hopefully in the next month or so. But we get to ask all the questions to the guest that was involved in OIS that Internal Affairs didn't ask.
Okay.
I get to ask you questions like, hey, Hector, at the time that you actually engaged, what were you thinking? What was going through your mind? I get to ask you, hey, when you went home, well, you were there. Did you call your wife? Did you call your family? What did you tell your kids? When you came back to work, what was that like? Didn't you have to see a psychologist to get clear before, you know, you came back to work? Yes. Let me tell you what that was all about. But more importantly, what was the outcome? What did the department do? Was this an in-policy shooting or was it out of policy? Okay. Did you get jammed up for it or not? And that's what always bothered me, which is the reason why it motivated me to do this show called Details, The Breakdown, is because we're only half transparent with the public. You know, the outrage, oh my God, you guys, cops are, corruption, police brutality. You shouldn't have shot my son, or you shouldn't have shot my loved one. But 3 months go by, you can care less.
Right.
So I always felt that we need to be completely transparent and have these conversations with officers that were actually involved. What I can tell you from my experience of my guests, because I've never been involved in OIS, is that it seems as though that everything really slows down. And so there's this forced science method that officers start to realize what's going on around them. And that's why Dr. Lewinsky, guys like Jamie Borden, who have that critical incident, they really study and they really go deep into the reaction, as it relates to your central nervous system, to the point that actually gets to your eye, to the point where it actually
it's like being in combat.
Yeah, well, you know this very well, but I got to tell you, man, that is something that I would not want to live with for the rest of my life. And I say that because there is no winning. Nobody wins.
Correct.
When there is a fatality, it's a tragedy for all. The community loses, the department suffers, and everybody around you, your colleagues.
Even the victim of the shooting, man. Ain't nobody trying to take a life.
Victimized. Yeah, no, there's, come to point is I just did a breakdown of it happened in Florida, male black. It was just a disturbance call. That's all it was. And it ended up being an OIS. And in the body-worn video, you see the officer just get so emotional saying, I didn't want this to happen. I didn't want this. I did not want this to happen. Why did it have to get to this? And so those are just things where you just...
I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, the one is in his front lawn.
Yeah, he's in the big lawn.
Yeah, he's big dude.
Yeah, big dude.
If you come to this, it's going to get hot in this bitch.
Yep. Yeah, he said that my arms are the weapons.
Yeah, my
hands are the weapon. I am the weapon.
Yes. And everything. That is a classic, let's try de-escalation to its best. We did OC spray. They even beanbagged them.
Yeah, they tased them.
They tased them twice. They try to take them down. They did everything that's possible. And then what happens is the donut operator, right? Because that's the dude.
Yeah.
Shout out to the donut operator. He actually shows in slow motion when the suspect reaches and lunges to the officer, and of course he has to back up,
right,
and engage. And so I did it. I hesitated, but I did it, and I did it more so because I wanted the audience to know that look, nobody wins here.
Nobody.
That's my message. The other message is that let's not ostracize and let's not have this officer punish him for going through this whole process. He might be facing criminal charges. We don't even know that. And let's just say those are completely denied. Now he's going to go through the administrative process. Don't leave him in the alley and in the island all by himself and walk that walk up until the point it gets adjudicated administratively. And and those are the things that I think we need to really educate. Definitely. And that's where I come in and kind of,
awesome,
give you that where, hey man, you know what? Who are we to judge?
Right.
That happened like that. And it was a disturbance call. So
cool.
Those are really important stuff.
Oh, dude, thank you for coming, bro. We're going to have to do multiple parts, man. There's just so much to unpack here, dude.
Let's do a series, man.
Definitely, bro. So, yeah, we're going to be working on something together in the near future.
Yeah, I definitely want to get us locally here, do some East Coast, West Coast stuff where we can all get in a room and start talking about what I really would like to do is, as much as I wanted to stay away from politics,
right?
I think we owe it to our community of law enforcement about the challenges that we've had up until 2024. And now that a new administration is coming in, what is police functions or work going to look like in the future? And yeah, man, pretty excited, bro.
So tell our viewers where they can find you all over the web, bro.
Yeah, so I had to go out and kind of brand myself. I'm the IA guy. So if you look at the IA guy, I changed the YouTube channel to the IA guy because not only was I doing internal affairs, guests coming in and telling a story, but then I realized that I had some capers, right? Tell me about a crazy caper you got involved, wild one, pursuit, heroic type of incident. I think we owe that to the public as well. And then what I started doing is breakdown. So I had to brand myself. So look me up at the IA guy at the YouTube channel. I'm starting to build my X. I was just told X Premium is the way to go.
That's what somebody told me too.
Yeah, let's do X. So I am definitely on X, formerly known as Twitter.
Cool.
And of course, you can look me up at the IA Guy podcast on Instagram, bro. And I'm really thankful for doing this. You're knocking it out, man. Ever since I met you, I've realized that there really isn't much of a voice of CDCR. I can tell you that there's a lot of people out there who are misinformed.
Yeah.
They're not well educated about the culture and the things that happen. But just know that because I knew when you're going to come on, I go, this guy's got to have an IA story because there's just a lot.
Oh, so many, dude.
There's a lot that happens inside that we need to know. And I think we owe it to the next generation. So thanks for having me, bro.
Thanks, dude. Thank you for coming down. Wow. There you guys have it, folks. Another banger, man. We're bringing you guys the wisdom, the knowledge, and the education, man. These are lessons you can't get anywhere else, man. Straight from the source. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Love you guys. Keep pushing forward.
You've been listening to Hector Bravo Unhinged. Follow for more.